Well, the Europeans are here. They've realized that BBC has lied to them, and America is actually a pretty great place. Like, I feel like they had it in their heads we were under a communist regime.
If you heard that right, Europeans, yes, the BBC has been lying to you. There's so much to unpack with this type of thing that it's unbelievable. This is a Coca-Cola freestyle machine. They're not particularly rare. You can find them in America, obviously, but they exist in Britain, Germany, Denmark, plenty of other countries, depending on what restaurants you go to. It is 2026 after all. They've got them in Five Guys in Germany, Burger King supposedly, and Legoland. But when a German World Cup fan found one in America, he posted online, LMAO, how am I supposed to choose from all this? This is overwhelming me. Americans found this adorable. So adorable, in fact, that within weeks, this completely anonymous tourist had received free luxury hotels, access to NASA, and an invitation to the White House. All very, very normal things. But yesterday, after gaining nearly 800,000 followers, Freddy suddenly deleted his entire account. Turns out the influencer life just wasn't for him. Or that he had some older posts resurface that might have blown his cover a bit. My name is Edinger, and the interesting story here isn't whether or not this faceless World Cup tourist is a psyop or not, it's why so many Americans desperately wanted to believe that it's real. So to catch up to speed, who exactly is Freddy LA7? Well, essentially this was a German World Cup tourist. He was just an account that was posting about his love for football, he loves Cristiano Ronaldo, and he flew to the US to see some World Cup matches of his favorite footballer, Cristiano Ronaldo, as well as support his team, Germany. But Freddy quickly found his account was absolutely blowing up via the Twitter algorithm. He was posting some innocuous things like visiting Raising Cane's, and he loves it. His lives were changed visiting this chicken tenders restaurant. He visited a Waffle House and had a glowing review. And if you're unaware, Waffle House is usually pronounced without the W for Americans. It's just Waffle House. It's not really a good thing, but this German guy is visiting and saying it's pretty great, actually. It's not just Waffle House. He visited Walmart. He's getting a chicken sandwich there. Every American is like, oh my God, this is so nice. This guy's so great. I love this German guy. He's praising us. He also tweeted, this is the most European mind can't comprehend this moment of my life. One of my friends said, punch me 5 times tomorrow and I'll still think this isn't real. Now, there might be some Europeans in my audience, particularly Germans, going, oh, what's so special about a stadium, though? Like, we have really big stadiums, in fact, huge stadiums in Germany. Yeah, that's true, but I think the issue that you're suffering from here is that you don't realize that you're not really the target audience for this. The target audience for this is more like this person on TikTok I found.
Are y'all following Freddy, the German guy who was here for the World Cup, which I didn't even know was going on, and exploring?
Oh, that's a good admission as well, like, which I didn't even know was going on, like, it's really dumb. But now I'm interested because there's this guy saying nice things about my country. That's the point! It's the point, it's cultural exchange!
Well, the Europeans are here. They've realized that BBC has lied to them, and America is actually a pretty great place. Like, I feel like they had it in their heads we were under a communist regime.
If you heard that right, Europeans, yes, the BBC has been lying to you, to all Europeans. And yeah, the BBC must have been informing us in Europe that America is communist. There's so much to unpack with this type of thing that it's unbelievable. I believe the word they were looking for might be fascist, not communist. I don't think anyone in any stretch of the imagination is imagining that the US is communist. Americans truly do not know what the word communism means. They will just throw it on anything possible.
We're all unsafe, and like there were curfews and we couldn't go out at night.
Nobody is saying that there are curfews and you can't go out at night. The issue here is that this is the target audience. This type of person who has no critical thought in their brain, they just go, oh my God, this German guy is visiting for the first time. He's saying such nice things. It must mean that all the negative stuff I've heard about the country, that the BBC is telling all the Europeans, no, can't exist. Okay. What exactly is going on then? If you want to know why this sort of content blew up so much, it's because it's cultural exchange content. It's quite rare to be able to have that sort of content. It involves travel, usually being able to post content about it, and it's pretty much the bread and butter of this YouTube channel that you're watching right now. I mean, my whole shtick is that I was born and raised in America, but I've spent over 13 years in the UK. I started my channel chatting with people that lived here and finding out these interesting differences between the country I grew up in and my now home. It's kind of nice and lovely and interesting. However, that's at the top level. I end up doing big research projects and finding out why really tiny minutiae are different, and I learn so much and I share it with you. That's one style of cultural exchange content. At the other end of the barrel, if there's money to be had online, you know that people will try to make money with as minimal effort as possible. And so rather than actually research, find any interesting differences, do something that you're actually interested in, the lowest tier of this is react content. So these are the type of YouTubers that will just throw up a video of a famous British sitcom, or possibly one of my videos, or possibly many other on the internet, and they just sit there in the corner and they go, oh wow, ooh, wow, I didn't know that. You guys have washing machines in the kitchen? And then the viewers go, oh my God, that's cool. This American didn't know we had washing machines in the kitchen. And it is genuinely cool to see someone experience your way of life for the first time. However, maybe you find that when you go back to their channel and you watch another one, you realize, wait a minute, how did he just realize that we had washing machines in the kitchen again? How has he done that 3 times now? These are just content farms. None of these are authentic cultural exchange reactions. They realize that this is inherently interesting to the human mind, and so they just churn out as much slop as possible without doing any sort of thought. And it's frustrating because cultural exchange is a genuinely interesting topic, and it's a human nature thing to be super excited when someone that's not grown up in your culture gets to share it with you. For instance, I went to Florida with my friends from Ireland in 2019 for Play This Live, and it was so exciting seeing their faces when we walked into a Wendy's.
God, Chick-fil-A's closed.
Oh, that's so embarrassing.
Wendy's!
Always fresh, never frozen!
I can't believe Wendy's have decorated this place for the Irish. It's just so nice. Happy St. Patty's Day.
They knew we were coming.
A Wendy's is just a standard burger joint, but to hear the Irish quote the commercials they'd seen online and be like, always fresh, never frozen, as an American, I was like, oh wow, it's kind of cool. That's the experience you get with an authentic cultural exchange. Or when I brought my British girlfriend around New Jersey, I wanted her to experience all the food that I grew up eating. It was that earnestness of wanting to share my culture with someone I love. That's the type of content that does really well online. And some people were very surprised, but the first place I took her to was a gas station, because I make great hoagies. Gas stations are a huge, huge thing for Americans. Why? Well, the whole country is essentially unwalkable. You gotta drive, and therefore you gotta stop by a gas station regularly. So gas stations have grown over time to offer different amenities that stand out from other gas stations. The one where I'm from, called Wawa, they've got good hoagies. The ones in the Midwest, called Buc-ee's, they're just really big. They offer lots of other things. And so, what better place for Freddy to go than this Buc-ee's? Look at this praise. This is a gas station? Yeah, man, look how big it is. You notice anything suspicious about it though, right? Americans are probably like, what do you mean? It's a big gas station. What's so wrong with that? The term gas station, right? You understand that. It's a gas station, sells gasoline. Well, that's kind of an Americanism. In most of Europe, in the English-speaking world, it's referred to as a petrol station, short for petroleum, as most Europeans that learn English actually learn the English version from England. Some actually are influenced by American media all the time, sure, but this is just one more extra clue of something is so off. His fluency in English is astounding and actually has so many American expressions that, I don't know, I'd be like, wow, I don't know where he learned English in Germany, but I guess I'm impressed. It's quite impressive, right? Let alone using actual memes that Americans use about Europeans as bait, but who knows? So he's praising the giant portions of food, the surprising stadiums that I guess they don't have in Germany, or the soda machines that I guess they don't have in his part of Germany, and the gas stations are so big, you know, it's so exciting. But this is kind of like what he's doing here. Even though I'd seen this and I feel like it's harmless, you know, who really cares? The Americans just eating this up, it's fine. That all changed when things got a little bit more suspicious. See, at some point during Freddy's giant journey and road trip around for the World Cup, he visited the US state of Ohio. Driving through Ohio, towns like this are why we're trying to avoid the interstates and take the slower roads instead. These are the kinds of places we want to see. This feels like peak America. And finally, some Americans had some alarm bells coming up, like, okay, are we being pandered to? Is this some sort of psyop? Why would someone ever say this about Ohio? It's pretty shit, it's just roads. I've stayed in Ohio, I've been in Ohio a couple times. It's not really a great place. It felt like, at this point, some people are like, is he purposely choosing places that are meant to be backwater, meant to be just like suburban sprawl and nothing really to be proud of, to point at, to be like, but look at this, isn't this great? This is peak America. And it's like an empty road that has no life on it except for some cars parked on the side and American flags. And then, well, as I said, Freddy deleted his entire account this week, and it wasn't because what he posted on Instagram, which was, oh, I can't deal with the fame, and oh, people are trying to be mean to me. Well, it's because people uncovered his story has quite a few holes in it. As reported by David Cavucci, says, well, supposedly, Freddy lived an entire year of his life in Santa Barbara in the US. Does that blow up his entire story? Not really. I mean, I've lived in the UK for 14 years, but I still find it very exciting finding little differences, so that's not necessarily too bad. However, he did do this same exact routine, this song and dance of, oh, I can't believe it, look at the roads, look at the restaurants, look at the tourist attractions for Saudi Arabia, and then went on to defend their human rights violations. But hey, maybe he just likes to travel and he just likes to defend regimes like that. Who's to say? Yet again, all of these in a vacuum don't really mean much. However, there was this one thing that he did that I think hopefully will make most Americans go, wait a minute, please wait. So Freddy is a huge Cristiano Ronaldo fan. He's here to see the World Cup and see his favorite footballer play. Supposedly. Now these tickets to the World Cup are incredibly expensive, and he's got quite a few he's driving around to go and see. One of the early games before any of this kicked off was in Miami with Ronaldo, and it very well could have been Ronaldo's final game. So if you were a big fan of Ronaldo, there's no way you would miss that, which is why Freddy bought tickets to see the game. However, he then decided to ditch that game in Miami to go all the way up to Vermont to see a Little League game. So for those of you that aren't American, Vermont and Little League baseball are basically like a smash of just the most Americana childhood experience you can imagine. No tourist is visiting Vermont, no offense to Vermont. No tourist is going to a Little League baseball game. These things are inherently American culture and at its core a feeling of innocence. And to go thousands of kilometers out of your way, ignore a game you spent loads of money on to go to a Little League baseball game in Vermont, threw up even more flags for some Americans, going, something just doesn't feel right. Almost as if, well, he wanted to see that game, but the content brief said, no, we need to get more of this rural, suburban, Americana type of vibe for the social media channels that we're promoting through you. There are quite a few influencers that have been paid by the US government to promote the country in a way that seems pretty standard. I think I saw a British YouTuber who like smiled with Marco Rubio, and I was like, okay, I guess get your bag. And obviously you could say that it is incredibly suspicious that he pretty much was able to get any sort of access he could, including NASA, the White House, tweeted about basically wanting to see a certain musician, and then, oh, he's got tickets to the show, and Gordon Ramsay comps him a place, this other guy comps him a place in Texas. Everything's just coming to him. And it could sound like, what a nice, wholesome story. Ain't America grand? However, I do feel like the more interesting story here is that it's just a sign of national insecurity. Americans have spent years hearing that the country is dangerous, its infrastructure is poor, its politics are unstable, healthcare is frightening, gun violence scares visitors, international opinion is worsened, and that countries in Europe have all these rights that they don't have in the US anymore. Then Freddy arrives from Germany and says, no, you guys are wonderful. Your food is incredible. Your cities are beautiful. Ohio is beautiful. Giant soda machines. We would never have this type of technology in Germany. We don't have much in Germany, actually, not even stadiums, even though we play a lot of footy. Just don't think about it too much. Just know that you guys are great. Most American discourse online is a troubling slurry of propaganda and disinformation about what life is actually like outside the US to keep people complacent. You'll see Americans on one hand admonishing Europeans for their way of life that they heard about online, and they'll pick ghost fights with people who think it shouldn't be illegal to walk to the World Cup stadium. But on the other hand, they will worship any positive experience of their country experienced by a European, no matter how far-fetched it may seem. They're not seeking reality here. They just want to hear the nice things that confirm the American exceptionalism that occupies a large portion of their perspective on life. Like I mentioned in my video on why Americans aren't taught that much about life outside of America, Americans get incredibly defensive of any criticism about the country if not first padded out with banal praise for things like garbage disposals or air conditioners. It's just that in this case, that praise was big gas stations and big food. And if only we had those big gas stations in Europe. You Americans, you don't know how good you have it. But the truth is, America, like every other country out there, is full of good people, of kind and caring people who love their country and love sharing it with others. That's kind of the whole point of the World Cup. You visit a country and you get to share and have this cultural exchange, but it's only really nice when it's actually real. Most Americans know that their system has corrupted beyond recognition, no matter which side of the pendulum they fall on for that topic, but they still understand that the people in their country are good. They just need to hope that the negatives get fixed at some point soon. And I understand why stories like Freddy's feel so good. They offer Americans a chance to appreciate the little things that they might otherwise take for granted. The problem is that this was never really a cultural exchange. Genuine cultural exchange involves surprise, misunderstanding, criticism, and comparison in both directions. It means discovering what another country does fantastically, maybe what it does terribly, and what each place could learn from the other. It's honestly the best part of travel. But Freddy's posts offered none of that. They simply took ordinary American life, presented it through the supposedly astonished eyes of a European, a proverbial YouTube shocked face thumbnail, and transformed it into evidence that America was exceptional all along. That is why Americans embraced him so enthusiastically. They didn't care that they weren't really watching a German discover America for the first time. He was giving them exactly what they wanted. In reality, they were happily watching America admire its own reflection. Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm really clear here. I don't really think this person is involved in a psyop or anything. I do just genuinely think it is someone that was egging the algorithm on, giving it the lowest common denominator of reaction style, algorithmically in-tuned cultural exchange content that the Twitter algorithm is just in love with at the moment. Nothing's really organic or authentic anymore, and it might appear to be some sort of bigger scheme, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it's just everybody out to try and make money off of anything that they can. Wow, wild. I've made 2 videos about the World Cup now, despite not having watched a single match, because that is just not something I have any care to do. Well, judging from the fact that you're on this channel, I'm assuming that you enjoy genuine cultural exchange, which is good news for me, because that is, like I said, my whole channel. If you're interested in knowing how freedom of speech actually correlates between the US and the UK, more than the propaganda that's probably being fed to you via the online apps as we speak, I'll link my video on that topic above. Hope to see you there, and otherwise, I'll see you next Sunday. Goodbye.